And Kyle Frazier, thank you for coming on the Level Up and Live podcast, man. We're super excited about everything we're going to get into today, man. We're going to cover a smorgasbord, man. We're talking mobile homes, we're talking leadership, we're talking sales, we're talking real estate, mortgages, all of that. But most importantly, as we were just talking about before we got on here, just that self-development, that individual, that personal building impacts everything else that we do. And just hearing you talk, I know we're just going to touch on all those things that every single person needs. And when you get that, most people think their problem is X, but it's not really. That's just an issue. There's more underlying things that are going
Mm.
on. And when you handle those underlying things, all those other things go away. And I just know that's you see that thing the same way. And I have to say, the mustache, I love it, man. Earlier today, me and Sean were talking about, like, I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, but at some point, just I'm gonna go mustache, man. And I've not had
Hey,
the courage to do it. Like, how have
it's
you had the courage to pull
man,
this off?
it started as a joke just to kind of get on my wife's nerves. I think I did it like, last 4th of July or something like
Yeah.
that. I would trim the beard down every now and then and have the mustache when I'm just going for it. And then it's just kind of turned into a thing. My
No, it's
wife,
cool. But
you
mustaches
know,
are cool again.
people know me around town for the mustache, and I wear colorful shirts every day. It's just kind of an ongoing joke slash people know me by the mustache now, so I'm just
I
gonna
love it,
gonna
man.
roll with it.
My dad had a big mustache.
And I'm
He doesn't.
bald, so it's kind of a whole thing. So
I'm going that direction, man. We got to have a conversation how to handle that. My dad had a big mustache in the 80s, 90s. He's clean shaven now, but it was like, I mean, if you took a broom handle and just put it on there, it was like a
uh,
big broom. Like, and I'm like, I don't know if I could ever pull that off. But now I'm getting to the phase where I'm like, I think
you could
a
just
mustache, some aviators. You know
yeah,
what, man?
old
Some
school.
neon. Yeah, man. I love it, dude. Love it. But yeah, thanks for being on the show, man. We're looking forward to
Thank you
this.
guys. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your journey, man. I know we kind of have your biography, obviously, but for our listeners and audience, it's like I was telling you behind the scenes is we have a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, and you've been on that entrepreneur journey. You've also been on that development journey, that growth oriented journey, and you've been putting in the work, man. You've been putting in the work behind the scenes, and it's been all rainbows and sunshines, right?
No, this is not. I wish it was.
I
So
It's
love the
been
honesty, man, because that's how
what
yeah,
we've
everybody's
learned
feeling
about
out there.
podcasting, what we've learned about social media, people share all their good stuff,
yeah,
right? Like
not
all the
not the
beautiful
bad
stuff.
stuff. I
But what
literally have a couple guys that kind of text me from time to time about mindset stuff, and it's like, hey man, like I'm only sharing the good stuff on social media. I'm not sharing when I'm having a bad day, or all your deals fall apart in sales, or you know or for a few months everything falls apart. So I definitely, um there's lately's been more, I shouldn't say bad days. Every day's an opportunity, but I've allowed a lot of days to feel like bad days, and that's the biggest thing I've been working on is managing those emotions. Just trying to stay steady. I'm all one way or the other. So got some guys that I work with, some guys in my life that are just steady, and that's just what I'm trying to get to, is just not letting the day or the emotions of the day dictate my current mental state. So it's tough. It's easier said than done. It's like I know what to do here, but getting that into action has been a challenge. But we're on the road to making it happen.
Yeah. One of the things I've realized about you just by following you on social media, man, I got to be honest, we haven't talked about it yet, but your social media, your marketing and advertising, did you see some of his stuff, his post on Facebook, Ewan? Dude, it's brilliant. Like, how do you do, is that like, do you use Canva? I mean, you got to give
uh,
me some examples on for our listeners
man,
and audience.
so I've been active on social media from a sales standpoint for 10 years. It's been different facets, different lanes. But when I started in real estate sales full time, there goes the lights, guys. Sorry,
Yeah,
let me cut these back on.
we got some strobe lights going.
So when I started in real estate, it's like everybody does the same thing, prim and proper, super, edited. And I'm like, man, that's not me. Like, I'm not a guy that wears a sports coat. I'm not a guy that, I have to edit this audio to where I sound super professional. I'm just like, I'm just a regular dude and wants to help regular people. And so I just try to do stuff that I think's funny. Maybe not everybody thinks it's funny. There's a lot of things I make that I don't post. I'm like, maybe that's too far.
Like what?
Um,
Give us one. What would you normally? What's one you recently? You're like,
Give us
oh
the
man,
good
I'm gonna
stuff.
hold back on that. That's the one I want to see, dude.
I'll
Yeah.
send. I might send it to you. I don't know. But I just literally just try to think of something that's funny. It started out just photoshopping my face on different stuff. Funny videos. And I'm sure you guys, I've kind of transitioned into mortgages, which it's been a little bit more difficult trying to figure that out because it's not a tangible. I don't know, just trying to figure it out. But
Yeah.
years in the mobile home business, which we'll get into, I'm sure. I mean, it was funny stuff. I'm just out there, like, if people are talking, they're talking, whether they like it or not, which most people I talk to in town like think it's funny. So I just wanted to be original. My thing is, if you see me on social media, we all get a perception of who someone is based off social media. I want that to be the same person when you meet me in person. You're like, that's the same guy. I don't want to be different. I've literally had people, hey man, I see your stuff on Facebook, Instagram. It's so funny. Can you help me? Like, that happens all the time. And then I go with a mustache. My wife and I went to a little brewery here on campus. We live in Auburn, Alabama, and we went in one day, got a drink with some friends. Went back 2 weeks later, and they're like, I walk in, they're like, hey, there's the guy with the mustache. It's like, and then I got all these. This shirt's very not as wild as most shirts. I try to tone it down, but I wear funny shirts every day, and I literally get comments 5 or 10 times a day about my. And so it's like, just try to be a lively person, upbeat person, and that's just kind of who I am.
I love to hear that, man. You said something earlier. You've had a lot of success. I can tell you're like, you have this energy, this go get it, and you get things done. When you see something in your mind, you go after it. Like I've been in sales. I feel like my entire life, and I get that vibe. I see that in certain guys, and they can just kind of pull it off. And you said earlier, you've had success without discipline.
Yeah.
And if you could talk to that a little bit, how you've had that, and then also, so how much damage in a good way can you do if you had like that discipline you've been working on? Just that contrast, like how have you noticed it, and how have you had more consistency in that discipline here recently to really hone the skills that you have? Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. I would say, speaking on success in sales, if you will, without discipline, is I come from a mom was a single mom. She married my stepdad, who adopted my brother and I they got married when I was 13. So, you know, first half of my childhood, or a little bit more than that, was just a single mom. And both parents, blue collar, worked in factories. Um, my mom and dad met at their job, but my mom was just a hard working, didn't have an option type person. And so I've always had this grit and like, hey, I can outwork anybody and everybody. But as I've gotten older, it's like, okay, can I work harder or can I work smarter? And again, I mentioned I'm in the middle of figuring this out. I'm just a couple months into what does it look like to have disciplines. I've been trying to put more disciplines in place for my personal stuff outside of profession, but now it's like, okay, how can I implement these things into my professional life? So I guess my comment on that would be is just, there comes a point in time where I used to pride myself on being the first one at the office, the last one to leave, the guy that worked 6-7 days a week. Didn't matter. I put in as more hours as anybody else, and like that got me what I was after. But it's like, was that really necessary? Did I have to work 6 or 7 days a week? Did I have to get there 2 hours before we open and stay an hour later? Like it fulfilled what I needed at the moment, from a personal standpoint and providing for my family. But as I get older, my kids get older, I'm like, they don't care how many hours a week I work. Like I don't want to wear that badge of honor of, yeah, that guy works hard, but I don't want to have the badge of honor of that guy's here before everybody. There's seasons. I used to. I'm not in leadership currently, but I've been in leadership most of my life, and I would kind of equate sales to almost like driving a boat. It's like, hey man, when you get in the boat and you're taking off, you got to get on plane, you got to hammer down. And, but there comes a point where you can kind of back off that a little bit. But there may be seasons where you got to get back in the throttle. Like you're driving a boat, you may hit some waves, you may hit some traffic, you may have to dodge something. But going 120 miles an hour every single day, it led to just inward destruction, and a lot of pain for me, pain for a team I was leading. And none of it was out of ill will. It's just, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And so now I've kind of, as we mentioned earlier, taken a step back, reevaluating myself and my life, and how can I learn from the good and the bad, right? How could I have managed different seasons? How could I have managed some of the success? How could I've managed the culture of the business that I was running at the time? And it's just, I probably was not probably, I was definitely immature and just not knowing what I didn't know, only reproducing what I've been taught.
Yeah.
And as a leader, I'm realizing like it's my responsibility to create the culture of who I'm with and who I'm around in my team. And whether or not that's coming from a corporate level or not, like I'm responsible for the care of that. So it's just kind of taking a step back and realizing like grit and hard work are good, but like putting some things in practice and some disciplines in practice, like I can be more present at my job and at home by doing that. And so that's kind of the journey that I'm on.
Man, one of the things I receive when I'm hearing you talk, and I don't know if I'm sure Ewan resonates with this, but man, like you can tell like everything that's coming out of your mouth is straight experience, straight genuine, straight authentic, straight raw and real, which is beautiful in my jam and what we're speaking to, because a lot of people listening to this, myself included, and what I'm hearing you say is there's one word, actually two words, if you put a hyphen there, that you continue to do for year after year after year, and all the struggles and all the obstacles and all the failures and all the mistakes and all the positives and all the rainbows and the sunshines and everything along the lines, you continue to show up. You
Yeah.
show up, right? You said yes to this podcast. You said yes to coaching. You said yes to, all these different things in your life, in these big lifestyle changes. And you may not see it, but I see it from 30,000 feet because I've known you for a little bit now and I've heard your story and I've heard your journey. It inspires me because you continue to show up. It would be so easy for you just to throw in the towel, for you to say, I'm done. I'm just going to go back, work for the man, and, live a mediocre life. No, you continue to level up. You continue to, okay, no, I need to take a step back. Where do I need to get clear? Where do I need to get my focus? You can continue to put one foot in front of the other. You continue to smile when you maybe don't feel like it. And behind the scenes, when nobody's watching, you're still going through all those ideas and thoughts of I'm a bubble, all these failures and mistakes. And dude, you said it earlier, you're an imperfect action taker, or we're all imperfect action takers. You said it earlier, I don't have it figured out. I don't have it figured out. Ewan doesn't have it figured out. If anybody says they have it figured out, they're lying.
Yeah,
None of us have it figured out. We're all going through this journey. Sure, some others that may be doing, in different areas of life, but at the end of the day, we're all figuring it out. Anybody
yeah,
listening to this. And so
definitely
I
so.
just thought that was important to put a pulse on that. It's like, you continue to show up, you continue to search for answers. And that's what we're all about at Level Up and Live, is like, hey, put your pride and ego down,
Yeah,
right? It's time to get clear and take a step back and start asking the questions. And maybe I need a mentor, maybe I need a coach, maybe I need some guidance. And you've done that. And I think that's what kind of helps you, along the path and along your journey with that, with your experience in the last 12, 24, 36 months. And so do you resonate with that? Does that hit home?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like you said, there's plenty of days I'm like, I don't, it'd be way easier just to, you know, scale back, sell, get rid of a house or do whatever, and just go be normal and just work a normal job. But it's like, it's not in me, I mean, there's been plenty of days in the last few months that I've thought about that. But it's just not an option for me, and I think about, we're talking about North Star earlier. It's, mine is my family. I've been married for almost 14 years, got 2 girls, and I can't give up. They're needing me. They need me now, but they also need me to show them that just when things get difficult, you can't just. It's not wrong to go and do whatever. Go get a regular salary job or any of that, but it's just not the way I'm wired, and I would be cutting myself short and cutting my family short if
Yeah.
I chose to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And you talked about leading the team and some things that you had wish you hadn't have done, or you said you maybe had some immaturity there. Like if you were to have done that all again, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently? And one of the reasons I asked that is like everything you've said, everything we're talking about here, everyone has good days, bad days. I was listening to the podcast, his hundreds of millions of dollars, and he got really vulnerable. And he's like, "Man, I get really stressed out some days. Some days I'm really depressed."
Hmm.
And he normally comes across as very upbeat and loving it. But I really appreciated him just saying, even at that level, you're still going to have
Yeah,
all those issues. The issues you have in a day, still going to have those issues, no matter how
for sure.
successful on paper, because that's
Yeah,
all success in the money world is. And real success is what you're talking about: family, showing up, doing those things, and feeling fulfilled while doing it. So yeah, I'd love to hear, maybe some of the things you would have done different, or knowing what you know now, the experience that you earned it, you've paid your dues, and as you go, you learn different things. Like what are you doing differently than you were in the past? Like what has your journey been like so far?
so um, it's a little bit different now because I feel like I'm kind of on pause a little bit with the leadership aspect of it, which is just in the last couple months I've kind of been like, maybe I miss it a little bit, maybe I'm not using some of the strengths that I do have and some of the experience that I have at this point. But I guess it goes back to disciplines. I was in the mobile home business. I know you guys got some close friends that are in that world, and I was young, hungry, wanted to make some money, chip on my shoulder. I'm gonna prove that you guys picked the right guy, and you didn't pick him the couple times I got passed over. You
Yeah.
know, and so
Underdog.
yeah, kind of the underdog mentality, with no guardrails, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to. I can sell, and I can show people how to sell, and thankful I had some good friends that came to work with me who honestly better at sales than I am. But we just went after it, man. We just selling as much as we could, and if I could go back, I would. And all of that was fueled by probably the biggest thing I struggle with even to this day is what do other people think about me? That comparison aspect of it. And it's and we could have done half as much as we would have done, and it still would have been better than the guy before me, right? And everybody still would have been excited, and it still would have been a great turnaround. But I just didn't put systems in place. I didn't put processes that would keep us out of the ditch, figuratively and literally in mobile home business, right? I mean, there's all kinds of moving parts there. But I just made, and it wasn't even the money that was the driving force, but I knew if I could be at the top of the leaderboard, that meant we made money. And I wanted to just show everybody that this 28-year-old or whatever I was at the time, he was the guy for the job. And then from a team standpoint and a culture standpoint is I didn't relay my motivation in the right way, so
Hmm.
it translated to just a dollar.
Hmm.
And then and it just over time it just eroded, and I really had those folks are still there, dear friends, incredible people, but really the pressure, they held it together when I let the pressure break me. And it's easy on the climb up, but when things started leveling off and a little dip here or there, it just got in my head and caused Anxiety, which I think most people in sales have some sort of anxiety there. There's always the chase,
Yep.
you got to go kill, right?
Yes.
And then that led to just, couple of the pressure of that I put on myself. It wasn't really pressure from anyone else, just myself. Couple that with, a poor spiritual life at the time. I'm never been one to have any huge moral failures or anything like that, but just that daily dependency on God, which is what I need. I think everybody needs that, but I'm aware that I need that. And so you got this pressure and you got this just ego, pride. I don't need anybody. I don't need God. And it just was like, honestly, I got to the point I was like, I can't go talk to anybody, right? Because my life looks perfect on the outside. I got a beautiful family. I got a beautiful wife, girls. I got the house, I bought the boat. I can't go talk to someone about my issues because they're gonna be like, what is wrong with your life? And so I literally got to the point it was like, it would probably be better if I just ran into a tree on the way home and I wouldn't have to worry about this anymore. But thankfully I have enough awareness that I'm not going to do, but that's how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And I just said one day, hey, today's the day. Like I blamed it all on a lot of stuff besides looking inwardly to myself. So long way around the discussion of what would I do differently. And it would have just been just trying if I could be in a space to where what I thought other people's perception of me was, if that could have been healthier, not stronger, and I could have been stronger personally, things would have looked a lot different.
Yeah. One of the things I heard you say was in your leadership role doing the mobile homes, and I know kind of your story, you were super successful. You took it from a poor performing, location to one of your top in your region, right?
Yeah,
At
we
this
did.
location. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously you came in there and you led and you were the spearhead of that in that environment. That's not an easy thing to do. But one of the things that I pulled apart from that story was that you were focused, because it starts with the leader, right? And then everybody else underneath, it's whatever you're talking about. And that's all you talk about. If that's all you're talking about is money, 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 that's all what you're going to be. Sure, you're going to achieve that goal because where focus goes, energy flows. And that's where you're going to see results typically.
Yeah.
So I resonate with your story because that was me. That's all I was focused on. Well, what does that lead to? Loss, stuck, unfulfillment, right? Because it's just not sustainable. It will get you to where you want to go, but then the thinking moving forward to that fulfillment, that purpose, that North Star, it has to be a different thinking, right? To shed the light on that. So I'm curious with you, man, going back talking to the version of yourself that gets in that role, you're sitting here on a podcast today. And the guy over here, let's pretend Ewan is that guy fixing to be in that role. What would be one piece of advice you would tell that guy to do differently?
I was that guy too. You can literally talk to me, and I'm filtering it through to my 28-year-old self.
Yeah. I heard Andy Elliott say this. You can't build a culture off money, because if it's only about money, one, you're unfulfilled, but two, your team's going to leave you for more money. So I would say it's got to be about the team. And there were times it was great, it was about the team. But the health of the team is going to translate into the health of the business, the health of the customer, their feeling of their satisfaction. Like it bleeds into. So I would say to myself, create the culture that you would want to be, that I would want to be a part of, and not recreate maybe the culture that you've grown up in. Because there was, corporate world, there's pressure every day, right? But there's a double accountability when you're an entrepreneur with still expectations of someone else at the end of the day. Like you're the boss, but so I would say create the culture that you would want to be a part of 3 to 5 years from now, and do that from day one. And slow growth is not bad growth. My
It's the best growth.
manager.
In fact, it's the only growth, because fast
Yeah,
growth ends
yeah.
up being a declining.
You got a
Yeah,
100-year-old oak tree, or you got a 20-year-old pine tree. When the storm comes through, the pine tree's falling first because the roots are shallow, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my boss slash mentor that I worked for several years, in the Birmingham, Alabama area, he, came into a store, made it a little bit better, and every year he's had some good years, right? COVID, everybody had some big years, but he's consistently every year produced, 10% more, 10% more, 10% more, and now 15 years later, he's top performer, most respected guy in the business, and he just did it, a little at a time, and he went in knowing what he wanted to create from the beginning, and he stayed true to that plan. So that's be the advice I would give myself is, what do you want this to look like in 3 to 5 years?
Kyle, when I first started the insurance company back in 2015, I was all over the place. Like you said, I'd always been taught to sell, always been taught to just drive the needle, right? Because that's what mattered the most, and where focus goes, energy flows. And so that's all I did for 3 years. And I've shared this story before on other podcast or other episodes. But then and then at that point, at that 3 year mark, Kyle, I was told to, like, hey, you need to go. Prior to that, I had reached out to mentors and just mentors, really, not really coaches. And I remember these mentors kind of tell me, like, sell, 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 sell. And that's all I focused on, which to a certain degree you have to, right? If you really want to
Yeah, you got to
survive.
be. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to. Yeah.
And then it got to a point, man, in that first 3 years, in that 3 years and 4 years, I started taking a step back and went, wait a minute. Like, sure, I've seen results. I got cash flow, I got money coming in, but I have not spent a minute on myself. I've just been concentrating on these other aspects of the business, right? Working in the business. And I take a step back. I'm like, well, who are my mentors? And I soon realized that my mentors were doing the same thing that I was doing, but they've been doing it for longer. They were working in the business, and they were building fast, bro. They were building really fast. And I was like, oh, I'm building really fast. Because people came up to me and were like, dude, you did $1 million in 18 months. And I was like, well, okay, cool. But yeah, that's part of it, right? Because that's what I was taught. That's what I was taught to do. And then I soon realized in the 3 or 4 year mark, I was like, wait a minute. I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it wrong. And then, dude, 4 years come around, 5 years come around. And I soon realized, Kyle, these other guys, that I thought were mentors, they were trying to sell their business. They were like, we got to get out. They were prisoners in their business.
Mm.
They were trapped in their business because they had built it so fast.
Yeah.
Sure, they were part of President's Club, $1 Million, all these other clubs, right? For that
Yeah.
status.
they had
But
built
then
a
they look
business,
back.
not an asset.
No, it was a liability. It's a complete liability. So when they went to sell it, I was like, because I was over here, I was like, oh my gosh, I see what's going on. These guys built it way too quick. They haven't done any work on themselves. They're just sales guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so many business owners and entrepreneurs, they build these businesses and they're just sales guys. And their liabilities, and they don't have an asset, it's a business.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, they are the business.
Yeah.
When they
they're
go to
removed. Yeah.
Yeah, when they go to sell it, when they step out of it, it comes crumbling down because they got a bunch of hyenas in the business. So when I realized that after 4 or 5 years in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm focusing on the wrong things. I need to focus on myself as a leader and work on this thing, work on the business and grow the people within them, empower, serve, impact, lead them, not focus on the money. Sure, the new business and retention is always important, but that's just micro. We need to be talking about vision, values, what's important to you, employee number one, employee number two, team member, Fred, John, whatever. And so my point is like, I learned so much about these guys that grew their businesses so fast. And then when they went to sell it, now I hear stories about the people that bought their businesses, how miserable they are because of they didn't buy it. They didn't buy an asset. They bought a liability.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to get off that my chest because I don't think I've ever shared that before.
I love that, man. Yeah, you know what's interesting, and it's related to, we could have everyone that's the people in our realm, sales, business ownership, all that. You said a few things there, Kyle. Like, you're worried about what people thought, and
Yeah.
that is just an absolute crusher. Like, showing you're in those businesses, and those guys are doing that. Well, you're doing that too because you care. You think about what people are thinking of you, how it looks, and all these decisions are driven off of what you think other people are doing, and it's just such a self-sabotaging deal because it's nothing. It's fluff, and actually nobody's thinking about you. Like, think about how much
Yeah,
you think about other
exactly.
people.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
think about other
They're
people.
not
Maybe
they're
we're
not thinking
thinking,
about me.
yeah,
Yeah,
but we're thinking, but they're thinking about me, and that's human
yeah,
nature. As soon as you can separate that yourself from caring, and even the thoughts that you have, they're not true. Nothing, gravity's true. We can all agree on that. And the experience, like, you might lose a job, you might make a sale. Those things happened, but the story around it, that's never true. That's just something you've made up, and you can change that story anytime you like. So you think, oh, these people are thinking about me. Not true. I just made that up in my head. They could be. We don't know. We don't know the truth. But
writing
if that's what
stories.
we're thinking that, well, then we can choose to think something else, or choose to think of nothing at all. To be honest, it's like, you don't have to think. Well, let me find out what the truth is. Just don't think about what they're thinking about. Don't you don't pigeonhole yourself into this thought process, because when you think about what other people are thinking, there's pressure, there's stress, and that takes your energy out of what you could be putting towards something that was good, productive, something that you want. And so just removing that energy suck, that drain, you've got all this freedom back, and you continue going down these paths that spiral you up, not down. And I think that's so missed. It's so huge because everybody does it. We're not actually afraid of failing. I think Hermosi said this. We're not afraid of failing. We're afraid of what people think the failure looks like. We're afraid of them
Exactly.
seeing us fail. If no one's around, like we've said this before, if you're playing the piano and no one's around, I just use the piano as an example. You can make all the mistakes in the world just banging around, but people start watching. You're like, oh, I'm going to look bad. Well, what's
Hmm.
changed? It's just eyeballs. People watching.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed. You remove the people and you're back to making mistakes. Nobody cares. So
Mhm.
why not stay in that state where nobody cares? Because nobody does.
Yeah.
Makes you a powerhouse. Makes you a super human, and you're
Hmm.
very fulfilled because you don't have these negative thought processes, and
Yeah.
this is it really is a superpower. And yeah, I think I'm so glad we're talking about it, because so many sales guys, so many business owners, they're so concerned about what it looks like, the house, the
Yeah.
cars. Sell them. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody drives. That's got nothing
Yeah.
to do with my life. And I
Yeah.
think I'm so glad you said all these things, man. Very vulnerable, and that's a
Yeah.
sign of a true leader, and someone that's going to do and is doing big
Yeah.
things. You're there, man. You're able to say it.
I appreciate that. It's we're on a journey, but we're getting there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, man. Yeah, so what's next, man? So where do you see that North Star, that vision of what it is that you enjoy doing, that fulfillment in your work, your job, and I know you're in mortgages right now. I watch the real estate market. It's difficult times, right? And,
Yeah,
and
definitely so.
and
Yeah,
the winners are born in winter, right? Like, if you can handle winter, when summer comes,
that's
it's
what I
it's
that's what I
golden.
keep telling myself.
Yeah, and you have to. Everybody else out there is saying the same thing. But here's the thing: you have to ask yourself, are people going to be getting mortgages? Yes, they are. Right? It's just a fact. There's going to be X amount
Yeah,
of people. Oh, so many people are bailing right now. Right? They're out. The market's over. How long is it going to be? But people are still getting mortgages. So there's a percentage, and there's a percentage with your name on it. It's just a matter of going to go get it. I'm sure you're
exactly.
thinking like that. So what is your kind of thought process with that? How do you deal with these difficult times to win?
I mean, just hustling, getting after it, building relationships, providing value. I'm with probably the newest lender in town, so that's some challenges is there as well. Thankfully, I know some people, and there's been some people that have trusted me, and took a chance on me. Some realtors that have taken a chance on me. So just really in the beginning stages, just kind of getting some momentum in the mortgage business. I'm really trying to learn as much as I can about the business as a whole. Because, like I said, I do want to get back in leadership at some point. I feel like it's just where I've always been outside of these last 2 years or so. And for the first year, it was like I just want to worry about myself. I don't want to worry about anybody. And as I've grown and reflected, and you know, people talk to me and ask me for advice, and just I'm kind of getting that bug a little bit. Like, what's the next step? I enjoy mortgages. I enjoy all things real estate. That's all I've ever done is something in the housing industry. I think it probably comes from being a kid, and just my mom bought her first house when I was like 17, and then I just think the power of real estate, whether it's from an investing side or just, a normal person utilizing the appreciation and the equity to grow to their dream home. My wife and I, we think we've owned like, I don't know, 6 houses, 7 houses, and it's like we're able to get the house we always wanted because we're able to just teaching people that kind of stuff, helping people in that capacity, something that I've always enjoyed. But yeah, just trying to learn as much as I can, build as many relationships as I can, provide as much value, and really just see what doors open. See how our branch grows. That may be involved here as our branch grows. But just soaking it all up and learning as much as I can, and just providing as much value to people as I can.
Yeah. Well, I had no doubt that the value is going to be there, right? You seem like you strike me as that type of guy. And I know I've followed you on social media for some years now, and you've tips and tricks and strategies. And so no doubt there. When I've heard you say leadership, getting back in that leadership role, I'm curious with you, man, 2-part question. What is leadership to you? Like, what does that look like to you? Because I feel like you're already a leader by just being
Yeah,
on here, serving and impacting. You're being a servant leader right now, right? Everything, sharing your struggles and vulnerabilities, whether you're talking to a teen, a kid, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old, doesn't matter. You're being a leader. I feel like you're already in that leadership role. And that's how I
yeah.
view you.
I hadn't
And
thought
you're,
about it like that. So
yeah,
that's
yeah, and you're serving and impacting people right now, thousands of people listening to this.
Dude, I've
So
written half a page of notes. You're already hitting me up. Like, yeah, you're already the leader.
you're already
well, I
there,
appreciate
right?
that. Thank you
And
guys.
so, in the 2-part question, the second part of this question is, what could you see yourself doing? Like, as far as visualizing, manifesting, what kind of leadership role would you see yourself doing? I know you've mentioned maybe something like this podcast, or maybe it's in
Yeah,
ministry, or
yeah. I don't know about ministry. And my wife told me today we're signing up to help with a youth group. So that's some new news I just found out about an hour ago. So
there you
um,
go.
It's a sign.
yeah, I think from a career standpoint, the biggest thing that I learned in my time in sales with the company I was with before, was just it allowed me to break some limiting beliefs that I had. Growing up, lower middle class, blue collar family, like I had these ideas of what I wanted to achieve or the amount of money I could make or the life that I could provide, and being around people that have already surpassed their expectations of what they could do were so far beyond what my mind could even comprehend when I started in sales at 23 years old.
Mm.
And so the thing that I liked the most about being in a leadership role that I was bringing people in that I knew that they didn't think it was possible, that they knew, hey, this is the most money I've ever made. I'm good with that. And I'm like, no, dude, like if you will just follow this process, I promise you, your life will change.
Yeah.
And I got probably 4 or 5 friends that are still in the business, and seeing that happen, that's what I get the most satisfaction out of.
Mm.
And so now I'm just, again, trying to soak up as much about the mortgage industry as I can, because I want to be able to duplicate that, but in a more sustainable, healthier manner of taking, whether it's a 22-year-old out of college or a 40-year-old man who's just doesn't know what's possible, and being like, here's the roadmap, you can do it, and helping them achieve that. That's what I get the most satisfaction out of.
Mm.
And we got a guy that works with us here, left a factory job. The most he'd ever made is around $60,000 a year. Incredible dude, hardworking, knowledgeable in real estate investing. So he helps people with that. And I don't know how much he's made this year, but it's a whole lot more than what he made working 50 hours a week at a factory. So not that I had a key role in that, but just being in an environment where, the only thing limiting us is the lid that we put on ourselves. So from a career standpoint, whatever, however long that takes, whatever that looks like. But I've always loved podcasts. Like even before I knew what podcasts were, I've always loved the interviews and just learning from people. So at some point in time, you've said your quote several times, Sean, where focus goes, energy flows. And that was the first thing you told me when we did coaching. So I've learned to say no because I'm one that gets a wild hair and let's go do it. So at some point in time, I'd love to do something like that, in the community. To my kind of my main idea with this is just utilize as a platform for real estate agents to kind of share their story and what they do, and then that might evolve to business leaders or other things. But that's just kind of I've done a few interviews with some realtors, not a podcast, just filming it with a microphone and our phone type thing, but just giving people an opportunity to share what they do, and they can provide value to people as well.
I think you'd be great at it, bro. Like I don't just say that and you knows this. Like I'm a transparent guy. I think you got the voice to do it, and then also too, you've got not only the vulnerabilities and struggles because that's what people lean into, but you've got the experience. So I think who I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. So take it for as it is, or for how I say it. But I'm also a big believer in, like I've told you in this before too, and I heard this from a mentor. I don't remember who exactly what it was, but it was God's. So God's rejection is God's protection. So everything that we've been rejected on in life, mistakes, failures, whatever it may be, is just God's protection.
Yeah.
And now you can pay that forward by being a servant leader, not only sharing it on this podcast, but sharing it with the people that you come in contact with in your life. And I think that's just what makes you a beautiful person. And
I appreciate that.
Asked you to be on the I wouldn't have asked you to be on the episode or podcast if I didn't mean these things. So, man, we're at our time. We're at our threshold.
Goes by
Time
quick.
flies,
It goes by fast. Yeah, quick.
So we appreciate you saying yes to be on the podcast today, man. Everything that you've shared, your experience, your vulnerabilities, your struggles, I know is going to be super impactful to our audience and listeners. Two final questions for you. One, how can our listeners and audience support you, man? Where can we support you? How can we follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook. Just Kyle Frazier is my name. Then on Instagram, Kyle Frazier _mortgages. It's kind of where you can follow along with me. Try to post, mortgage related information, funny stuff, sometimes the occasional, motivational type stuff. But yeah, follow along. And I tell everybody, one of our core values here is collaboration. So if people have questions about real estate, mortgages, maybe some investing. I don't want to act like I'm a seasoned investor, but I'm beginning that journey as well. And anything I can do to help someone answer a question, whether they're going to be their guy or not, I want to help and want to see people succeed in any way that I can be a part of it.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Links to that for easy access. Second question, final question, my friend, is what does level up and live mean to you?
I think it's the same thing most people say. It's just trying to be a better person every day, a better version of yourself. Creating disciplines, creating routines that take out some of the what ifs of the day, so you can concentrate on what really matters the most. And live to me is fulfillment. Living a life of fulfillment, in whatever capacity that looks like, but just living, just being at peace. Being fulfilled, being at peace, and operating in the gifts that God's ordained for you to have, and just being a vessel to help other people.
Yes, man. Beautifully said. We end the call by saying level up and live.
Level up and live.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man.